Well, we are here with two of our beautiful brothers and sisters, Dr. Lynn and Dr. Vance. And I cannot say enough the love, the gratitude in our hearts about you both and this miraculous journey we have been on together. And the between the both of you, the hats you wear as doctors, as healers, as parents, as brothers and sisters, as parents, as leaders in this world globally, to Kundalini yoga, to sacred pipes, to sacred listening, to your journeys, and Marla and I truly being honored to be on this journey with you arm in arm. Our hearts overflow with love for you both and your families. And like I said, we are so grateful that you're here tonight, sharing your stories, your journeys, your experiences with the Tree of Life and the Intention Stick. And the reason I titled tonight's beautiful conversation of Mother Tree guided her to us, truly divine. And so Lynn and Vance, this is the world, these beautiful souls are our brother and sister. So I'm going to start, as we say, ladies first. Lynn.
By the way, on the seventh night of Hanukkah, I just wanted to mention that because, of course, we know the power of seven, but the light that we're bringing into this world tonight is really just so beautiful. And I just wanted to share that because I know how important that is to Lynn and Vance.
Wow. And seven is completion. So talk about divine timing. So you may not get a word in tonight, by the way. It's just really going to be Marla and I.
No, it's usually me and Vance.
Yes.
Right, it's right. This is actually yin and yang taking place tonight. Vance and Marla and Lynn and I talk about both, or should I say all four of us being separated at birth. It's an understatement. So share away. We're going to sit and hold sacred space for you both.
Wow. Just so grateful to be here with both of you tonight as well. And my beloved with me. And again, the four of us as a sacred family, truly, we have known each other in linear terms for, about 4 years, but we've been together for lifetimes doing this work. And I'm so glad you mentioned about, the seventh day evening now of Hanukkah. And I don't know if you can see behind us or not, but we do have some candles just to bring that light in on the table. And I think one thing that's really important for us, and I know for you all as well, is we're all on this journey, but it's really about bringing all of the truths back to where it all originated, which was we're all one.
Yes.
And those spokes, as I look at your mirror or clock that's behind you that just has these spokes, but that's what's been happening, and how really we came together and all of the connections from that point forward, bringing these incredible people in our life that were really just guided by the light that we hopefully all shine as we, are on this path, whether you call it the red road, whether, whatever, it's truly always the spiritual path. And they're all so aligned. And it's just when mankind sort of, took the critical mind and created the polarity that mine is better than yours, and the divisiveness, that's really going on and that we're seeing in our world now is actually the perfect time for us all coming together to really hold that space so that this pervasive fear not even really about COVID, but it's just the fear that's been created universally, cosmically, that's causing such, you know, an extreme polarity. And I noticed when Dr. Gladys spoke the other night, she spoke about it in that way of definitely, you know, the divine feminine and the male energy. Polarity exists in everything. And when we can understand that it's necessary so that we can actually understand that, again, we talk about, if you didn't know joy, you wouldn't know sadness. If you didn't know the light, you wouldn't know darkness. So it's very important that we have that perspective, but in a conscious way, to help others through what resonates with them. And that's why there's so many beautiful tools, just as our Tree of Life intention stick is one of those incredible tools that, you know, the Tree of Life, which is really what everything's all about. We're all the branches and the leaves, and but we have to be rooted and grounded like that tree as well, so that we can manifest while we're also part of the divine simultaneously. And so we, as a couple, actually met sort of through our yogic spiritual path. And I can say I'm very grateful for every moment of my life, because at the place that I am now at almost 63 years old, that I had to go through everything that I've lived, the family that I was born into, the relationships, the experiences, which I didn't understand, obviously, as it was happening to me in my earlier life, but it's what led me finally to the point to finally have a path that allowed me to no longer be caught up in the story or the label, right, of who I am. So yes, I'm a physician and a doctor, and there's initials, but that doesn't define who I am as a soul being, as a divine spiritual being, having this beautiful human experience. And to be in this physical body, we know, is such an incredible gift. However many existences and lifetimes to attain this gift, so that we can actually experience and die into our life, so we can surrender and let go to those attachments. Doesn't mean that we can't have things. It's not about that, but it's letting go of that sense of our ego and ourselves that are manipulative or have an agenda that doesn't serve the highest good. So anyway, I had been practicing, well, I'd done many things sort of as I began my path, but where I met this incredible being was at summer solstice, in this beautiful sacred ground of Ramdas Puri in New Mexico. And in 2011, of course, it was an 11. Yes. And I saw him on the first Friday that we were there. He was sitting sort of behind me. And I actually felt this presence, and I turned, and all I saw was this incredible being with a light that, I mean, his light was very evident, as we talk about that again tonight. And I think I even said out loud at one point in time, that man has a beautiful light. But I wasn't there to make a connection in a relationship or anything. I was there having, you know, an experience with myself and with friends and just with the practice. And so we ended up being put together in the kitchen. And that there's a whole story behind that too, where I didn't have a karma yoga or a job. And so one of the nights they were asking for people to wash dishes. And I raised my hand. I'm like, I will. So I walked into this kitchen and immediately I saw him and I just started smiling, literally like smiling.
Hi, Vance.
Yeah. But I watched him for a moment and it looked like he was actually the director of the kitchen because he was, you know, and I'm actually quite shy. And it takes a lot for me to sort of be able to approach somebody, especially someone I don't know. But I was so thrilled to see him, even though I didn't know him. And so I went over to him and I said, do you work here? So I thought I should report to someone to get my job line.
That's great.
And he's, no, I'm a dentist in his Texas, drawl. And I said, oh, I'm a doctor. Well, anyway, we ended up washing these huge, pots and pans together for 3 hours into the wee hours of the morning. And he was very new. He'd had a steady yogic practice for about 6 years. But this was his first experience with summer solstice. And he had just been with one of our wonderful teachers, Guru Singh, who really brought the science in about the reptilian mind. And he loves that thing. And so I could talk the lingo. So that's how I got him interested to begin with.
She was working you, Vance.
And then, and I will say, he was honestly the first person, and may still be the only person that I shared complete truth with in that initial conversation about things in my life that I don't actually share with anybody. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, I felt no judgment and I was very comfortable, and it was important for me somehow to be completely transparent in that conversation. Mm-hmm. And I could see that it had no effect on him. He was listening very deeply we talked about things even when I was a small child with my grandfather riding my pony. And he listened and he heard those stories, but we were in a process of white tantric yoga where you need a partner. It doesn't have to be male, female, but you just need a partner. And each of us had other partners the first day. And so at one point in time, I said, do you have a partner? And I meant for the next day. And it went right over his head. And he said, no, I have a solo practice, meaning his dental practice. And the moment that I said the words came out of my mouth, I could hear my beautiful teacher, Sangeet, say to me, you're not supposed to be the one to ask. Again,
it's like George on Seinfeld. when she says, you want to come for coffee? And he says, no, thank you.
Right.
So, I mean, immediately I'm like, wow, that, and then an hour or so later, he actually said, hey, do you have a partner for tomorrow? No.
Quick to the slow, Vance.
It was a very long day, probably 10 hours at least, in a very deep practice where most of it is you've got your eyes open, looking into each other's eyes and souls and, meditating for 62 minutes at a time, but about 8 of those a day. And I knew that I just had to be very, very steady. And what he told me actually afterwards was, as we were in meditation, and sometimes that energy shifts and, people kind of shape shift. But he said he could see me as a little girl riding my horse.
Wow.
And what else? And my eyes were like turning super blue.
Yeah. This was totally new to me. And her eyes just got bluer and bluer.
Wow.
But I could see her I can see in one eye her riding a horse as a child, and then I could see her adult in the other eye, and it was sort of freaked me out.
And
but I've grown after 40 something tantrics that we've done together, that this is not, it's not abnormal. It's something that occurs very much in that realm. Yeah, so it was quite a day.
Yeah, so that's...
I call it the Vulcan mind melt. 60-something minutes, and you're sitting there looking at her eyes, and it just sort of, and that was a great experience.
And so in that time together, we obviously had a deep connection, but it wasn't like we fell madly in love. There was no sexual, connection in that way, but at a very deep, intimate space, in that space of where you're really, truly holding space for each other. Mm-hmm. And then I had to leave the next day, and I introduced him to our friends who you also know, Karuna and Siri Chand, and other people that we've brought into the Tree of Life family. And yes. Of course, I invited him to Costa Rica right away, as I would for everybody, where we have a beautiful retreat every year with our dear sister Karuna. And then we parted ways that evening very sweetly, but we shared numbers. And as soon as he got off the mountain, he called me, and we have never essentially been out of connection or communication from that moment. And then in a few days, he said, I'd really like to do more of this. And so I sent him an email that he fondly now calls the
scroll. And that's 6-7 months of our itinerary. It was, and that's what we followed it, and we did everything on it.
Wow!
And, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and in between.
And so 2 weeks later, we met each other in Denver and drove up to Boulder, and that was it. And so our lives together have been built from a different place than any other relationship that I know I've had before. Deeply founded in, again, our spiritual path and understanding who we are as what is our true purpose, which I love that's so much a part of what the Tree of Life is how can we help others, no matter who they are, where they are on that continuum of life, right? What is their truth? And again, what is their joy? What is their purpose? What is their sadness? How do we share that with individuals? How do we have compassion for whatever that individual is going through, right? And again, it's just been an incredible journey. So what we've come to know is very much with you two is we're kind of like the same person, actually. We're twin flames, and throughout our paths before we actually came together, we were following identical paths. Like things happened to us where we both, before we knew each other, had tibial plateau fractures on the same leg. We were literally within miles of each other. He was in Wickenburg at a retreat when I was working in Wickenburg. Wow. And so as we realize now, as in all things, in divine timing, like we're not the doers, right? And if we stay in our truth, then things, happen as they're supposed to. So fast forward, we have a home in Phoenix. I have 4 sons and 2 daughters, Vance has. Laura and Leah, and we now have 4 grandchildren as well in Phoenix, and
an extended family.
An extended family. Your family definitely, and your children are. It's just incredible, and there have been so many things that have happened, over really the past 11, 12 years for me, and the vision of things coalescing and actually manifesting, which you're very much a part of. And since we only have an hour, I do want to speak to the title of our meeting tonight, because this is sort of where our path started, right?
Thank you for sharing that. I was right there with both of you on your journey, yes. And wow. And Vance, and when you were sharing that, when you could see you as a little girl riding the pony, I saw you as a little girl riding your pony. I mean, again, this is what I love about transfer of energy. Again, the vision that time is linear and things that we normally don't speak about in the world. And this is that awareness that is being able to see things in different ways, different lenses that we all have. And I love that you shared that, because that was so powerful. And you just felt the love and the connection, as you said, the twin flames. I'll call it quadruple flames here to add to this, but that was so beautiful. And again, because we have to see and understand the soul of a person, not the external. And this is what you said that was so beautiful, is that this world looks at others on the external versus seeing the heart and soul of an individual, the eyes. That is, as we said, and I'm sure people have heard this, it is the window to the soul of that individual. And we have to look within. We have to stop coming from judgment. And I can go on for 9 hours just talking about that, but thank you for sharing that, because we see you. It is one flame. It is pure love. And it is the obstacles that we've all experienced in our lives that bring us exactly what you said earlier, where we are today. And it has made us who we are. And for this, we have to be grateful and thankful every second. So I'll let you start back to the title.
Well, I want to add to that, because I think it's a really good point that we're talking about. It's taking a little sidestep, because I agree with you. I felt I was on the journey with both of them as well. What was so powerful is to see the connection of the two of you, of being those twin flames and the oneness. And I think it's also the trouble that we see in the world that relationships fall into, is that we're not seeing the soul. We're not looking into the eyes of the soul, which Vance was able to do with his beloved. And I think that's part of the connection, and to leave judgment out of it. Lynn had talked about, to start with, is that she was able to be her truth.
Yes.
And she felt safe within that space. And I think that's another important lesson for all of us in relationships. Absolutely. Whether it is partners, whether it is friendships, whether it is family, is to see into each other's eyes, to really understand one another, because then we're losing. Right?
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that incredible, beautiful journey.
Right. Again, it goes back to being authentic self, to speaking your truth, regardless of what the external world may think. If we're not being authentic, then how will anyone in this world truly know who we are? Because we're all programmed to be politically correct, or we have to speak a certain way to this person or that person. And again, not only are we not being authentic because we are not sharing our truth, we're not even listening. And we all know about sacred listening to what someone's actually sharing, and holding that space for one another, and just being, versus this world was programmed to react and interject and be rude and like, wait, stop. And we're not even hearing what another person is saying, because we're already thinking about how to respond, how to react, how to be defensive, and we're missing the miracles that are taking place in that moment. And believe me, as we do know, everything's a miracle. So you're right. I'm so glad we were able to pause for a moment just to touch just briefly on that, because that was so beautiful from both of you. And yes, I can't wait for what you're about to say next, of how we did meet, how you were guided. So I'm kind of like this little kid on my chair.
Yeah,
put your seatbelt on. Exactly.
I just want to kind of dovetail into what you mentioned about sacred listening, because it is a process, but it's actually a beautiful circle and medicine wheel that's been created now. We're holding that space here with our our elders, Cassandra and Horse. There's a circle going on in Colorado, and we're going to be starting a circle again in Arizona. And I know you guys were part of the initial circle in Arizona at the ranch that became the circle here in Corpus, which is also where we're beginning the actual research that, you know, Dr. Melissa spoke a lot about on her talk, which is fascinating. And, but what we do learn in that sacred listening is more than just the listening, as you said, from our ears, but where energetically, what age are we? What chair are we in as we talk to, you know, are we coming from the child perspective, you know, the teenager, from our desire? Are we in the fourth chair, which is really our divine self and highest and best, that I am, as we talk about? And from there, there's actually 72 chairs. So just like in Kabbalah, everything is the same when we talk about, you know, the numerology or the essence of the Zephyr Yetzirah, or, you know, all of these things, which is what's so exciting for me personally. And I know both of us, is that's how we live our lives. It's like all the connections, everything that we see, that we say, is connected in that beauty way, as Mark would say, in such a beauty way. And so back to Mother Tree, we were very blessed with this beautiful home in Phoenix, which also the trees actually are what brought us to the home. So as you know, my son Tucker has an incredible business called The Brokery, and so one of his areas of real estate, he's a real estate broker. And anyway, we weren't looking for a house really. And they just invited us to come see this property because they know that we like, you know, very different things. And this property is surrounded by 5 like huge eucalyptus trees. But this magnificent being in the backyard, who literally her bark is silver, and she's got this massive trunk, but she comes like this. So she told one of our friends one time who was leaning against her, she's like, I'm a woman. Can't you see? But anyway, it was pretty funny.
That's great. So, well, let me pause for a second. So what if someone is listening to this for the first time, that everything in this world has energy, everything is alive. And when Lynn is mentioning right now Mother Tree, this beautiful tree in her backyard, in Vance's backyard, literally the energy, the messaging, that the spirit, we're actually able to hear things, receive that message when we quiet our minds. And again, this may not be the normal conversations that most have. So we're sharing that awareness with someone that is maybe just getting into spirituality, to quieting the mind, into starting meditation or different yoga practices, or just wellness. And this is what we all have the ability to receive when we do start having that peace from within, quieting our whole bodies, our minds. So everything is present. We just have to start paying attention and listening, because it's all there for all of us to receive. So back to Mother Tree sharing with you. So it was an interlude.
Once again, fast forward, there was also his whole story is how we eventually got the house, and it had a lot to do with actually the trees protecting it and waiting for us. There was actually another contract on the home, and that buyer wanted to remove one of the trees.
Wow.
And so the deal fell through. And anyway, it opened it up for us. And I would still drive by it even when I knew we had to let go of it. And I always like to look up what is the, you know, spiritual meaning or mystical aspect of whatever it is, whether it's an animal that comes to you or whatever. And so the eucalyptus trees are all about their sentinels, and they're about protection, very, very deep, deep protection. So anyway, we were blessed to finally be the beautiful owners of this property. And so it was on Mother's Day, 4 years ago. 3 years ago, 4 years ago. How long has it been, guys? I forgot. 3.
Yep, Trinity.
Yeah, I think it was the second year we had been there. Anyway, I was there and I just was kind of gazing out, and it's not like you hear somebody talking to you, but you're very aware that there's a message.
Yes.
And I was told very clearly that I needed to look up the tree of life. So I'm in a parking lot at AJ's getting ready to go take my walk around Camelback. I was parking there. And I'm Googling tree of life. Now, one might think that something on Wikipedia would come up about tree of life, but no. Tree of life intention stick was what comes up on my screen. And I'm like, wow. And so I'm reading all about you and everything. And I'm like, oh my, I mean, I was just like, awestruck. I'm like, I have to meet these people. And so it's a Sunday because it's Mother's Day, right?
Yes.
So I try to call you from the number. Of course, no one's at the, store because it's Mother's Day and it's a Sunday. So a little time goes by. And as you know, we travel back and forth from Phoenix to Corpus Christi, Texas, where we also have a beautiful home and where we're coming to you live, as they say, from the upper room tonight, because we both work here. Anyway, so a few weeks went by and I was back in Phoenix again. And again, the message comes to me. I'm driving to another appointment and I'm told, you have got to go find where this exists. And so I thought I knew where you were. I thought you were in Old Town Scottsdale. So I actually drove right to where I thought you were, which that wasn't it. So then I thought, okay, I've got to Google this. So I went and parked myself into Fashion Square parking lot. So for those of you who are not Phoenicians, so their office is actually in a building that exists within the Fashion Square parking lot, essentially, which is a huge shopping establishment. So I call the number again, and our beautiful Ira answers the phone. And you two were not there because you guys were moving you were moving that weekend into this beautiful home. And I said, well, is there any way that I could come up? Because of course it's by appointment only. And this is very beautiful private studio. And he said, well, I'm here. And he said, do you know where Fashion Square is? Parking lot. Like not knowing that's where I was supposed to go. I was just there because I was going to go in the mall. So Ira let me in. And as soon as I came into your beautiful space, the first thing I see is Starshine Academy in the picture that you had. So I had been very involved, probably almost simultaneously when you were involved in Starshine, and did a lot of work with them. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I walk over and I see the project that you did with the McCartys, essentially, with the other piece. And I was just like, everything was just like speaking to me. And so then Ira and I sat down and we had this like immediate connection to where we're both crying. And he's like, oh, he's like Scott. He's like, and he's sharing all these things with me and I'm sharing these things. And so that weekend, he finally came to town, and we knew that you at that time had also the beautiful boutique at the Phoenician. So we went there and we met the beautiful young woman who, of course, was minding the store. And she told us stories about you and showed us pictures. And I shared my card. So went back here. And one night when I was at work, Scott called me. I was actually remember where I was in the emergency room actually, and working. And so we had this conversation and immediately kind of connected. And so you say the rest is history, where we met, and
wow.
So our journey and however many hundreds of intention sticks and all the people that collectively have, come into the family fold, from Lindsay to Dr. Gladys and Rose and Mark and Horst and Cassandra and Mel and Walter, and just,
hundreds and hundreds just from you and Vance. It miraculous. And not to again interrupt, but when we were on the phone, literally it was like being reconnected with a brother and sister. It was instant. Like you knew the journey, the past lives. It was just like, wow, there you are. And when we all met, again, the same thing. It was just miraculous. It's again, the journey, and things happen exactly when they're supposed to, right? We think we have to force or we have to do this. Nope, everything is in perfect alignment. The stars aligned, how we all met. And yes, talk about the journey. Wow.
It was truly Mother Tree that inspired me and honestly gave me the message to look for you.
Yes.
Find you. Mm-hmm. And with that, I'm going to let Vance share.
Hey, Vance, you're going to get a word in today. What were you going to say? I know you want to end.
Do you remember receiving? So from there, do you remember receiving the intention stick and what you thought about it and the intentions you chose and maybe why you chose them? Are you able to share?
Yes. At first I saw Lynn was real active in sending and giving people these, and I just started watching the people and their interactions, and I finally got one for myself, and I chose specific lines that were what I really felt that I resonated with: kindness and care, caring and compassion. And I just and I understood that I think how this really works is the positioning of the stick in the heartbeat and the way it almost is like the intention is transmitted through your heart by it's a standing wave sort of pulsation, and it just generates. It's like a Mobius coil. It just sends out these intentions, and I thought it was pretty cool because from a science standpoint, that's how I saw it and how it actually operates. And plus, I thought it was such a cool tool that really, really explains how it works, how our intentions, our thought patterns, but it gives us something to focus and transmit from. Anyway, I wear mine all the time. I mean, I don't ever really take it off unless I, got to get it out of my hair or something like that. But it's just really nice to have. And I've even used some of the dirt from Ramdas Puri's where we did tantric. I also placed it in the intention stick also to be with me. Yeah, the whole thing about us being one, twin flame, whatever you want to call it, what it is we're source. We're coming from source. And now we're going back to source, and we're becoming more in every school. I mean, the Kabbalistic, the North American tradition, the Taoist, the Hindu, all of these mystery schools are the spokes of the medicine wheel, and we've been exhaling and going out, and now we're coming back together, and it's remarkable to see the people that are coming into our lives that are of every walk of the mystery schools, and I'm just going, wow, and it's like everything is sort of vibrating. It's almost like sacred geometry farming from just a frequency, you know. Yes. And so anyway, that's how I see it, and it's been a great trip. I mean, it's been a beautiful unfolding, our relationship and how it all developed. And you know, it wasn't a physical intimacy. It was more of a spiritual intimacy that we shared. That was really something that I cherish a whole lot. I mean, we have conversations that, you know, you couldn't have with anybody else. And,
except you guys.
Yeah, well.
You guys and everybody.
But what I mean is, it's so intimate, and it's not even a physical thing, you know, and that's really truly where, you know, life exists, is in that realm, is versus the physical realm, and I guess that's why I like it so much, because it's reality. So
that's incredible. Vance, what came to me was the night we were at our dear brother's home. He had a gathering, and he introduced us to some of his sacred brothers that were there. And I know everyone was congregating around a table, sitting down, and we were talking about the intention stick, and we started bringing up TOLS, the acronym for Tree of Life Intention Stick, and what we had learned, what was actually revealed to us through Hebrew, the gematria, and the numerology that came with it, and that our dear rabbi had explained to us that he kept seeing it was all about oneness. The numbers added up to one. And I remember all of you started engaging in this conversation, and Scott and I all of a sudden kind of like were like going like this,
just holding space and watching from outside.
Everyone was truly in it. Talk about oneness, and you were talking about
trying to figure out the lineage
of the intention stick, and do you remember that?
Yes,
it was pretty powerful.
Can you share a little bit of what you remember?
Well, it's just that the story, everybody's stories, it's almost like something that it's an affirmation. The intention stick is an affirmation for what all is. And that's why we start talking that conversation of oneness, and everyone relates to it. They understand it. And they can understand the truth in it. And it's no mistake that it's a single digit too. It's a one, it's a tree, it's all encompassing as far as when you speak the truth and you come from your heart and your intentions are pure, then everyone can relate in that same conversation. And that was my experience with that, what happened with the group. So that's the simple way of explaining how I felt about it. Mm-hmm. I just saw the correlation about how it sort of, it's a center point. It brings everyone into conversation. Because anytime someone sees one of these, they're immediately are attracted to it, and they say, "Well, what is this?" And then you can go into conversation. And then when you speak the truth, it's the same thing. That same conversation that occurs occurs again and again and again. And it's the same conversation, and it's easy to speak because there's no other story to it. Mm-hmm. Just what it is.
Can I speak from a more maybe critical mind perspective for those of who, again, might think that we're speaking a different language, if they were hearing this tonight. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter where you are in that. And I just want to share like a few instances because I carry them with me all the time, just as you guys do, because you just never know who you're going to meet that is just so it's what they needed in their life right now, as you talk about. And one time we were traveling, actually, we were going to Denver for some reason, and we were in the airport and our luggage didn't make it there. So we were in the baggage claim area trying to fill out a thing. And this young woman who was assisting us, and she did have like a little crystal necklace on, and I could just feel that she was whatever. And I said, may I gift you something? She was so helpful. And she was just like immediately like, anyway, when I handed her the package, she just started weeping. And as I always tell the story, when I gift them, it begins with your story. And I speak about my dear friends, our dear friends. I don't say I actually say our dear friends, Scott and Marla Berger, and I tell your story and where all of these people are being helped. And then I have them read the back so they understand. And then I take them step by step, just as it was, because they are all blessed, all the ones that we do together, we've been together. And those blessings and those prayers and those beautiful words are instilled in that vessel. And I think that's one thing for me too, is really understanding, you use the word healers. None of us are a healer. We are just vessels to allow that energy in a very pure way to flow through. And when you can hold that space in that way, then it doesn't matter who you're with and you don't have an agenda. And then that's when that space is created, when miracles and things shift. But anyway, this young woman she was like, you have no idea what this means to me, as she was crying. She said, I've been going through so much, and I could tell a million stories like that. Just recently with COVID, as you might imagine, I'm a hospitalist. So I'm in the hospital. That is where I'm working. I'm the one admitting, caring for these patients. And of course, the nurses who are being inundated, at every moment. And the patients themselves too. So I've gifted many to different patients. But I don't know if Dr. Melissa spoke about when we actually gifted the entire neuro medical floor intention sticks. And again, just the response. One of the nurses, when I explained that autism, that, part of the proceeds, and that was, adults with special interests helped to create the packaging and everything. And she just started crying. And she's like, my brother is autistic. And, how can I get one of these for him? And one night, again, I just sort of get these messages like, I need to have this many in my bag tonight. And in the smaller hospital where I work, the ICU nurses. And some of them are the FEMA nurses. So the Federal Emergency Medical. So they were sent to us here in South Texas, which what a godsend. These incredible men and women who have left their families, because most of them don't live here in Texas. They come from California, from New York, from all over the country to help. And they are only taking care of the COVID patients. So anyway, one night, and same thing happened. This one woman, when I gifted it to her, she's like, oh my gosh. She said, I just started to, you know, kind of learn more about meditation and what she says, you have no idea. And she was again, weeping, just this, it just opened her heart immediately. And down the hall, there's another little unit. And so the head nurse said, have you gone down to, you know, see this other nurse yet? And so when I walked in, she like gets up from her chair and she's like, oh, here, Dr. Crocker, sit. And I'm like, no, I'm here to gift you something. And even just that, she's like, me? You're here to give me something? I mean, these people are just giving of themselves. There's nothing left, right? And I always tell them too, Scott, just as you say, be open to receive, right? And to fill yourself up with what you truly need. And she's like, can you sign this for me? And sign her. She said, I will never forget this day. She was so incredibly moved, and again, just tearful, like that something would have been given to her. Here's this woman who's like, you could just tell she was so spent from every perspective. Yes. And on a lighter note, when we first met, our grandson, who at the time was he was not even quite 4 yet, and we had intention sticks, and it was his mom's birthday coming up. And so he gifted that to her, and he chose the words, and the first word was love. And he put in there for her. But he also thought it would be a great idea if we set up an intention stick stand on the corner like a lemonade stand, and we should sell intention sticks.
And we're still going to do that.
In his honor, I thought that was the most adorable, cutest thing. These children, and as we already know your grandson, talk about, there's not enough to describe his beautiful light and why he chose to come back in this lifetime to do the work. But wow, these children get it. They're such pure souls. They understand exactly what this is. And they are choosing their intentions correctly, not for self, but for others on their journey. And this is why we're all here together. It is about the children, the grandchildren, the great-great-grandchildren growing up, living a life of intention to eradicate all the negativity and darkness and chaos and ego and fear that's presented in the world on purpose, that they will grow up to understand that we already know there is no black, white, pink, yellow, brown. There is no Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, Muslim. We are all the same. Our souls are the same. This world forgot we are one. We already are one. But through the thousands of years of fear and I'm better and ego and power and black, white, pink and politics and religion, the divisiveness, people think the world's broken.
Yeah, it's not
happening how it was meant to be.
Just as it is, and it requires the crisis, right? It requires that pressurization, just like that diamond doesn't become faceted and brilliant. You know, it's under pressure for, you know, thousands of years. And but it's for those of us essentially to be those mirror neurons we talk about in sacred listening.
Yes.
And also, again, it's called the Five Sutras. And again, a sutra is just like that suture, that thread, right? What does a thread do that can connect us? But the first one is remember the other person is you. And so all we're actually doing in every moment, we're just reflecting and projecting back and forth. And we actually have neurons in our heart. So we have a heart brain. And why it's so important that this hangs at the level of our heart, just as Vance said, our heart is one of the most electromagnetically powerful organs that we have in our body, right? And with every beat of our heart, those messages, because it doesn't matter if it's written on a paper or it's a thought. It has the same impact. And we talk about that mirror neuron. In other words, seeing that in each other. And that's truly what sacred listening is we've found that whether you're someone that's sort of in the circle that's working on something yourself, if you're just sitting and participating, all those stories, just as tonight, somebody is going to connect with a piece of that because it's happened to them. They felt it in their life, right? Yes. And I think that's what's so important about this. The more of us that have this, it becomes that resonance as well, just by the mere fact that it's present with us, right? Yes. And once the children's, intention stick came out too, I mean, we were obviously giving children the original ones, but since the foundation has, been created, just all the beautiful work that's been happening there. And I know that I sent it to you, speaking about the young ones. One of our nurses has a little girl and a little boy, and Michael just turned, he's about 1.5 years, I guess. And Holly is 2.5. But she received the children's intention stick, and she sent me a video of them, again, the children themselves choosing their intentions, which are so mindful, right? Wow. So incredibly beautiful and mindful. And another gentleman here in Corpus, he actually owns it's called Feathered Friends, and it's a beautiful, he sells these incredible exotic birds. And I had gone to a in-home concert one day with another beautiful sister that's in our group, Flicka Ron, who's an opera singer, and Crystal Bowl, beautiful like cymatics, which is essentially visualized sound. And he immediately saw and he was like, "What is that?" And he was also wearing a Star of David.
Oh, I love it.
Explained to me. So anyway, one of the intention sticks sort of in the last few passes had gone to him, and he recently opened up a new space, and I was so happy to see where he was. And I walked in, and he was just, there were no words, as Scott and Marla.
The intention stick with children, children are so pure of heart.
Yes.
That I think it's a very critical time to have children so involved in this project.
Yes.
Because they are true. They speak their truth. They choose, like you said, their own intentions, and they're loving, but they come from a pure heart. And when you're sending out that intention constantly as a child, I think the world, I mean, we can wear them, and we can do our practice and generate our intentions and our energy, but children are so pure of heart that it's almost it's automatic. And I think it's so important that they be involved in this program.
And the animals are very important too, as we know, just truly what incredible space they hold for us all, because they can feel that subtle energy. And, it's a beautiful journey to have at least enough awareness that we're constantly working on, in every second. But to have that awareness of how everything impacts us and how everything is so sacred and divine and truly has medicine in it, no matter what that is, right? Yes. And so we're just grateful that we've been a part of your journey, and that will continue. And as the light grows together within all of us, and like I said, we're human beings we have responsibilities. We're parents, we're children, we're aunts and uncles, we're physicians, we're designers, we're creators. We have all these titles which mean nothing. And back to your, if we can just really be in our truth, being in that fourth chair, living our purpose, living our divine purpose as much as possible. And we get knocked off sometimes, right? And I think you guys were with us at Guardians when we talked about sort of the guardrails, kind of like the bumper pads in the bowling alley, right?
Yeah.
It bounces you back. You might get off here a little bit, but it's something that can take you back. And I think that's what's so critical also to create in the future, as we've spoken, is how important it will be to also have education and support in order to help people be able to utilize the tool to their, so in a way that it resonates with them.
Yes.
We've also all had the experience where we maybe have gifted, an intention sticker, but whatever it is, to someone that they don't really, it's not something that immediately connects with them.
Right.
And so very important for us to be able to share the background, be able to have a link for them to, this is why we're doing this work now, right?
Correct.
The book, so people can read the stories, connect with the stories, like-mindedness, and again, be able to create more connections through that. And just if we have found that you may need this person, and probably somebody that we know knows, you may need this or you may need this, but we know those people because they've all come into this beautiful web.
Yes.
This incredible just blanket of love and family and connection and diversity. I mean, there's every walk of life and expertise within our collective family.
Yes.
And no one is higher or lower. We're just all there, to support each other.
That's beautiful. And, Lynn, you're so right, to your point, and I think Vance even touched on this. What we talk about is also peace amongst our collective.
Yes.
When someone sees someone else with this on, with the intention stick, they immediately have the connection because they know, yes, commonality, the same mission, the same belief, the same purpose. And right away, any differences dissolve. Because they know they're here on the journey together and they can see it with one another. And just like you said, when someone saw Vance and Vance explained what it was or the intentions that he had in it, it sparks that conversation and it just opens us up and it fuels us. It's the same story that we share about Mother Teresa, who told our dear friend Pat, if you want to help, go downtown Phoenix and find a homeless person and connect to them.
Right.
Make that person feel as though they matter, as though they have purpose, that they're not alone. And that's what we're all here to do, is to serve and to help one another.
Absolutely. I love what you guys say too. And I tell people this that through your work, you found your purpose. And I really believe, we're very grateful for the jobs that we have, but they're really there to help and support so that we can continue to serve in a greater way. And I think that's what we're all here to do. That's in our collective family that just continues to grow and expand. and bring all these traditions together so that there is understanding and there is peace, and that divisiveness and that polarity becomes less and less and less until it just literally dissolves into love. Yes. Right? And yeah.
And we're dissolving all of that. And it's even in the next lives, we are doing the work, as we say, it's this, as I know we've shared this with you many times, it's the ancient Greek proverb that a society grows great when old men plant trees in which they know the shade they will never sit in. And we are doing this for our children.
The future generations.
To do exactly what needs to be done, because think about it. We haven't had peace for thousands of years because none of the people, countries, whatever it may be, have not had peace within themselves.
It's been conflict contained. It hasn't been true peace.
It's time to let the world understand we are all brothers and sisters. It goes back to the beautiful African word, Ubuntu. I am because
we are.
We are.
I am because we are. And we're here to share the love, the light, the oneness, the abundance together, because how could just one person enjoy all of the abundance when everyone else suffers? When we can have abundance together and celebrate this life in this world, the happiness, the bliss, the peace, the oneness that we were all meant to be in 24/7. And we are doing this collectively, because it's not about Marla and I or you and Vance. It is about us collectively, because all of our souls are already connected. We just have to brush some of the dust and the fear and the ego and the whatever you would like to call it, whatever label you can think of, off, so we can see the truth. We can see the heart and soul of every one of our brothers and sisters, and we're doing it. We're not talking about it. And
to see their child, their inner child,
yes,
within their eyes.
To start living a life and to being in that state of presence and now, and to be that inner child, as Vance saw you on that pony. That is the state we all need to be in, to go outside, to go roll in the grass, to walk barefoot in the sand, to go climb a tree, to hug a tree, to
stomp on the leaves.
Yes, ride a bicycle. We talk about start letting that child come out that is begging to come out. And who cares what someone else thinks? Because if you're happy, wow. Again, if we can just learn to get out of our own way, watch the miracles unfold. So I don't want this call to end, but
wait, maybe we should put a close to our beautiful gathering tonight by sending an intention blessing to all of the miracle workers who are on the front lines. Such as
the nurses, the doctors. Thank you both for your service. The first responders, the paramedics, the fire department, the police, the armed services. I mean, think about it. We're all first responders, but yes, that beautiful special blessing to the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics, everyone that plays a vital role with what's going on in this world right now. Because if it wasn't for you, and all the beautiful doctors and nurses and everyone associated, we would be in chaos more so than what we're even seeing right now. And we're putting that at rest because of you. So yes, so we're gonna do it in a beautiful intention blessing for all of the first responders. So I want you and Vance to hold hands, and then each of you hold a computer or whoever.
So we're one.
So we are one, and whoever's listening right now, whether you're holding your phone or your computer, also just close your eyes, and we're going to all take a deep breath in together so we can just ground ourselves. And we're going to breathe in through our nose. first and foremost, to all of the beautiful first responders. May you receive blessings of health and light and love and courage and strength and everything each and every one of you needs in your life right now to continue to fill up your beautiful hearts and souls with unconditional love, which will allow you to fully heal, which will allow you to continue to help so many more brothers and sisters heal, which will unify all mankind and bring us back together as one. So we should all see heaven on earth as it is here now and see your true purpose in life and be your authentic selves. Sat Nam.
Oh. Sat Nam.
And we are honored, as you already know, and we've said it 1,000 times, to call you our family, our brothers and sisters, and all of the love and kindness that you continue to both spread with the Tree of Life and everything taking place. There's not enough love in our hearts to express how much we love you, and honored to be walking arm in arm in this path, on this journey together, in this lifetime and the next, for humanity. And we're doing this together. It is about us all collectively in a time that is so needed. So we love you, we love you, we love you, we honor you, we honor you, we honor you. And as always, sending you, all of your families, the kids, the grandchildren, and actually every one of our brothers and sisters around the world right now, blessings and intentions of gratitude, light, and love.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this time.
It's our honor. And we can't wait to see you again for those real hugs versus these virtual hugs, even though we're receiving it.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Love you. Love you guys. Have such a blessed evening. And thank you for this divine, sacred space that we share together tonight. I know the light is hitting the heavens above. And you already see how rosy red my cheeks are from the both of you, from your energy, from your love. Thank you for filling us up. So we're honored. Bye. Love you. Mwah.